Okay, thanks everybody for being here. Just thought I'd tell you a little bit about Girl Scouts in general and the history and the background, because it comes up in the badges and all the things we do. The first thing that we have is we have a Girl Scout promise, and I've got it there on the handout for you. And we also have something called the Girl Scout Law. Now, just in case you're reading some old literature or whatever, the Girl Scout Law used to be 10 laws, and they've now grouped it into one. The wording has changed. I've memorized about 4 different versions in the 50-some years I've been involved in Girl Scouts. So they are updating from time to time, trying to make everything current. They change the badges, but some things remain the same, some things change. But we do always have a Girl Scout promise and a Girl Scout law. The girls are asked to make the promise and try to keep it, and they're supposed to try to follow the Girl Scout law. So it's like the creeds or whatever of any other organization. It does, however, say, if you look at the Girl Scout promise, on my honor, I will try. We know that 5-year-olds are not going to be able to maybe do all of this, but they're going to try. And the Girl Scout law starts out with, I will do my best, okay? So, you know, it's like, we're working towards something here. There's always a goal. Now, Girl Scout history is kind of involved with Boy Scouts. We are also involved with Girl Guides, and everybody gets very confused. There are 2 different organizations in the U.S. I know that in Italy and in a lot of other countries they've combined to make one organization, but in the U.S. it's Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. Now, our shared history is the fact that Lord Baden-Powell was the one who started Boy Scouts in England, and I think it was 1907. As it turned out, Juliet Gordon Low, a woman from the United States, met Lord Baden-Powell and his wife when she was traveling. And she got the idea, she knew about Boy Scouts. They had started Girl Guides in England. And she got all excited, and the quote is that she went back to Savannah. She was a part of the social elite in Savannah. She went back to Savannah, called her cousin, and said, you know, I've learned about something that's great for girls, it's wonderful, and we're going to start it here tonight. And so they had the first Girl Scout troop, I believe, had 18 girls in Savannah, Georgia. It started on March 12th, 1912. That is the Girl Scout birthday. And every year, Girl Scout Week starts with March 12th. Well, it's the week that includes March 12th. It starts on a Sunday, which they would call Girl Scout Sunday. And there are activities and stuff involved with that. Here, what usually happens is we're on spring break. So we usually do something that's related to Girl Scout Week. We might mention it, but in the U.S., the Girl Scouts all go to church together. Sometimes if they meet at a church, they'll go to church that week, and they're usually recognized by the minister of the church or the priest that there are Girl Scouts there. Sometimes they'll take part in the service or they'll do a flag ceremony or whatever. Now, the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts have this shared founder, but we also borrowed things from the Boy Scouts. Our promise and law is similar to the Boy Scout one. It's also similar to the Girl Guides. We also have the motto, be prepared. They said that originated because of Baden-Powell's initials, BP, so be prepared. But the Girl Scouts use that as well. We do, however, do some things a lot differently from Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts tend to have, their structure is a little bit more militaristic, I want to say. Girl Scouting, we want it to be inclusive for everyone. We accept girls from any faith. We encourage them to follow their own faith and everything, but we will accept anyone. I've had Muslim girls in my troop. I've had Hindu girls in my troop. That's your personal business. but we do encourage, we think it's important that they have some sort of spiritual background. But really no one asks. I mean, I'm not gonna take a poll. So we have, now within the Girl Scouts, we have Girl Scouts USA, and within Girl Scouts USA, they have Girl Scouts USA, Girl Scouts Overseas, and they handle all of us that are out in other countries. Now, the history of that organization has been a little wild, so when you run into people, you'll hear of different things that happened at different times. In general, it's going to be American girls who are overseas or have some American connection, or they go to an international school and they speak English and all their friends are American, or, you know, I mean, it's usually, we try not to compete with the local guides whenever possible. But they found that girls that go to international schools, sometimes the school schedules don't work with the local schools, so that's why. Again, we pretty much welcome everyone, but we don't go and recruit at local schools because that would be interfering with the local groups.
And they also need to speak English.
That's the other thing. We insist that they speak English because we have leaders like me who do not speak I sort of speak Italian, but it's not good enough to interact with the girls on a day-to-day level. Let's see. Girl Scouts and then the Girl Guides around the world belong to a bigger organization called the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. Those initials, you know, World Association, Girl Guides, Girl Scouts, there are 3 G's in there. But we call it WAGs. You'll hear somebody say WAGs, okay? So we are a part of that. That's why they wear 2 pins. They'll have a Girl Scout membership pin, and then above it, because it's a bigger organization, you'll have the World Association pin. It is blue and gold, if you've ever seen it. Every year, there's another holiday, and again, we're back to Baden-Powell. Baden-Powell and his wife, though there was 20 years difference in their ages, they shared a birthday, and it was February 22nd. The Boy Scouts refer to that as Founders Day. We refer to it as Thinking Day. The idea is that it is a time when Girl Scouts and Girl Guides around the world think of the fact that they have sisters in other organizations in other countries. So in the United States, typically, yes, there's the pin, the World Association pin, and that's the brownie pin. So we have that World Thinking Day, and there's usually a badge or a patch that you can earn that's involved with it. If you run into Girl Guides anywhere around the world and you identify yourself as belonging to Girl Scouts or Girl Guides, they will probably offer to shake your hand. They will shake hands with the left hand. Now, Girl Scouts do the handshake, left hand, and we do the sign, because we do the sign with our right hand. The Girl Guides, I've noticed, they will just put out their left hand to shake. And that's kind of a, you know, it's a secret handshake. But they will do that. There is a history behind that. I am told that Baden-Powell chose that for the Boy Scouts because he had served in Africa in the military. And in order for someone to shake hands with their left hand, they had to put down their shield, which left them unprotected, which showed that they trusted you. So that's why the left hand shake. But that's something else that we have borrowed from the Boy Scouts. The story about the Girl Guides starting had to do with the Boy Scouts were started in 1907 in England. In 1909, they had a big rally, and reportedly a bunch of girls made uniforms, dressed up, showed up at the rally, and when they were asked who they were, they said, "We're the Girl Scouts." And so Baden-Powell decided that they had to start an organization for girls, so that's how they got started. And his wife was very involved, and I believe his sister. But, you know, that's how all this got started. Juliet Gordon Low, as I said before, she was a socialite kind of in you know, the old South in a way, because when she started Girl Scouts, they will always depict her, when you see pictures of her, as, you know, they show her wedding picture when she was 18 or something. It wasn't until about 10 years ago that it really dawned on me that, hey, she was older when she started Girl Scouts. She was actually about 50 when she started Girl Scouts, which is kind of amazing. She started this national organization that started with 18 girls and went to millions after she was 50. So that's all a plug for, you know, anybody that thinks you can't do something as you get older.
It's inspiring.
But when she grew up, her nickname was Daisy. This is why we have daisies. She used to start clubs. She loved animals. She decided she needed to do something in the hot summers in Savannah or wherever they were vacationing at the time. And so she started like a girls club. And she, you know, they were sewing things for people. The only problem was none of them knew how to sew. So they called themselves the Helping Hands and soon became known as the Helpless Hands. But she had this history of trying to do things to help people. And so when she heard about this organization, that's why she started it. She thought that, you know, the Girl Scouts helped in the war efforts. They planted food and they, you know, started little farms. They did all sorts of things. They learned to be signal flag operators. They did all sorts of things during the course of those years. When I started Girl Scouts, it was in the 60s, and that was apparently the heyday. I mean, everyone was a Girl Scout. I can remember leaving school, and we would go to our meetings after school, walk to a nearby church, and it was like every girl in my class was going. Everybody was in Girl Scouts because that was back at a time when they didn't have sports for girls, they didn't have a lot of these other things, so there was nothing to interfere. We all were in Girl Scouts, and that's what we did. I started as a brownie when I was 7 years old, because at that time, that was when you started. There were no first grade brownies, there were no daisies. Then things changed. They added first grade brownies.
I was one.
Then they discovered, well, first graders don't really know how to read, and second graders do, so then they started separating out the troops, and they'd have a first grade brownie troop, and then they'd have a second and third grade brownie troop. And then they added daisies. And then they decided that the daisies weren't getting through everything they wanted to get through in 1 year, so they made the first graders daisies too. So now we have daisies or kindergarten first grade, brownies are second and third grade, just like they used to be. Juniors are 4th and 5th grade, they used to be 4th, 5th, and 6th. Cadets are 6th, 7th, and 8th. This was done in the US because we switched our school system, so we have middle school and it starts in 6th grade, so they were going to a different school, so they made a different level. And then seniors were the high school girls, which were at one point 10th through 12th grade, and again, they kind of switched that. Now it's 9th and 10th grade, and then they've added another level called ambassadors that are 11th and 12th. And I'm just kind of telling you this so if you run across it, you'll understand what's going on there. That's how things have changed. The awards, Girl Scouts, brownies didn't always earn badges. Brownies used to basically do crafts and little activities. Then they decided to have them do some badges. They obviously made them easier than for the juniors. And then when they added daisies, they started out with daisies doing the petals for their flower and learning about the promise and law. Now they have added some badges. So again, they're evolving, the organization evolves, but there are some things that stay the same. They do have some badges that they have kind of retained, they've updated them, but they call them legacy badges. And those badges they include in these books, the handbooks. But the badges that are in the handbooks are not all the badges that are available. They also have packets, and and this stuff is all color-coded. The cadet book is red. You may notice the badge activity sets are red background. There are actually 3 of them total, and they've divided them into, and I always forget this, it's your world, it's your story, it's your planet. And they're kind of loosely grouped based on what they are. They also have what we call progression. That gets thrown around a lot in Girl Scouts. The idea there is that obviously a daisy cannot do the same things that a brownie can do, or that a cadet can do, or that a junior can do. So what they do, they've got a chart here, and they kind of show the equivalent badge across the levels. So, and they're not really, some of them, you know, you'll have a horse lover badge and then you'll have a horse woman badge for the older group. But a lot of them, it's just kind of the same idea, and we're gonna, a little later, I'm gonna go over one badge with you so you kind of get the idea. It's a community badge. But they do put a chart in each one of these books, and these are all of the badges that, in this case, a brownie can get. They have badges, and they also have things that they decided to call journeys. Journeys are, they're trying to integrate things and give them activities. They call all of them leadership journeys. Girl Scouting is all about leadership. You're trying to get girls to take charge, and in a male-dominated world is kind of the idea. We start even with daisies, trying to get them to make choices. The leader might say, okay, we're going to work on this badge or this badge. Which one do you want to do first? Okay. Then when you get a little bit older, you might say, okay, pick 1 out of 5 badges to work on, or you plan this activity. How would we complete this badge requirement? You try to get them to start expressing their ideas and figuring out how to implement them. So, for instance, with the juniors, with the camping trip last year, I had them plan the menus for the group. Now, they learned some things. They learned that it's not smart to cook something after 8 o'clock at night when you arrive at camp, because you're trying to put up your tents and you can't get the fire going, and you eat at 11 o'clock at night. So I guarantee you, the juniors who were involved this last year at the camping trip will have everyone bring a sack lunch next time, or a sack dinner. But the idea is to let them learn and make the mistakes and whatever. And when I have had cadet trips in the past, which are the somewhat older ones, we've gone on camping trips, and I tell them to make me an equipment list and a food list. And if it's not on the list, it doesn't go in my car. So they're in trouble if they've forgotten matches, the can opener, you know, this sort of thing. Now, I'm not stupid. I give them, you know, some little, you know, we have the matches and the can opener are in my car somewhere, but they just have to struggle for a while before I bring it out. So, but I guarantee you they don't forget. You know, and they learn how to plan things and think of all the contingencies. And when they get to be in high school, the idea is that they are pretty much running the meetings themselves, making all the decisions. We have adults there because we can't just let, you know, underage girls run around and do whatever they want, but pretty much the leaders are supposed to sit back. And I'll do more sitting back. I'm going to be dealing with the ones who've gone to cadets, and I'm going to be kind of just waiting for them to do some stuff a little bit this year. So that's kind of, you know, that's the way we get them to progress. There didn't used to be, when Rachel, I don't know, did they have the Gold Award when you were in Scouts? Do you remember it? Gold Award. Hearing about it?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay. You know, the Boy Scouts have something called the Eagle Scout Award. The Girl Scouts have something called the Girl Scout Gold Award. It's becoming better known. Universities are giving scholarships, just like they do with the Eagle Scout Award. I'm still trying to, I need to look at the requirements, but basically it requires a service project that they have planned, that they have raised money to get the materials for, and this is what the high school girls do. But you're working towards that. So you have the gold award, then with the middle schoolers, they can earn something called the silver award. The juniors can earn something called the bronze award. And all of these are like, the bronze award is earned as a group. The silver award, they can have 1 or 2 girls. The gold award has to be done on your own. But again, we're progressing. So that's kind of the whole idea of Girl Scouts. They progress and they get more, they learn skills, they learn camping skills, they learn other skills. Even the cookie sales that they have in the US, those are designed so that they learn how to handle money, so they learn how to deal with customers. So, you know, it's skills that they can use for other things. We can't sell cookies here, but, so you will be asked that by parents. We can't. So I think I put a list on there. The journeys are interactive and they come with a book. And they are also color-coded. This one happens to be purple, so it's one of the junior ones. It takes a topic and has them do a bunch of different activities, and there are kind of like milestones along the way, so they get like a 3-part badge. Now they have these at every level, and these are the, you know, it's your story, tell it. It's your world, love it, you know, and they're very on various topics.
There's one on her vest.
Yep, she's got,
On the other side, the Wonders of Water, I think it is.
you want
Other side.
Where is it?
Other
This side?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is, I haven't looked at the brownie ones. So this has parts to it. So they can be given the whole thing at once, or they can be given the separate parts as they earn it. It's kind of, they're trying to make it a little, you know, instant gratification in a way. But they, in general, are bigger things. And for the most part, you can't get through one in less than a year. However, girls can work on badges on their own. So they also have these awards. A summit award is if you get all of the journeys, the 3 journeys at your level, if you complete them all during the time you're a brownie or whatever it is. So Margaret, Sarah's daughter, for instance, she got the summit award for completing all of the ones for brownies. But that means you've got to do 3 in 2 years. So it's, you know, but they can work on them on their own. Does anybody have any questions so far? Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious, I think I know the answer, but so are we following here in Rome the same programs, guidelines, and books as Girl Scouts at the same level are currently doing in the States?
Yeah.
We're doing the same program at the same time. So if in 6 months I move back to the States, we're doing Girl Scouts, we're Daisy's
It
Brownies,
will all
we're
look-
following the same,
Yeah,
or
however,
is it
there's,
simplified for abroad?
oh, it's not simplified. They give us the same books and everything.
Same books.
What you will find is you may go back to a troop, and you may have done the healthy eating badge here, and you may get back there, and even though the girls are a year older, say, they may have chosen to do the healthy eating badge that year. So, because there's no rule as to how you do within a level, when you do badges.
But we're following this, we have the same materials.
But you'll have the same
Same
books
exact.
and everything.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, those come from the States.
Oh, yeah.
They ship those.
These are
Yeah.
shipped in from the States. There is nothing special for overseas.
Well, why don't you explain a little bit, how is it different though? I mean, you know, we go on a different website and, I mean, what would the differences be?
Kind of, USA Girl Scouts Overseas is kind of a subgroup of just Girl Scouts. And they've done that because they do have a few people overseas. At one time, they had separate councils overseas that were associated with the military bases. And so they had one in Japan, they had one in Europe, one in like someplace like Guam, I believe, that dealt with the rest of Asia. It was because we had so many military overseas and they wanted their children to be in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, so those councils were set up for both organizations overseas. Now they're running it all out of New York, at least the Girl Scouts are. So They have a special, there's a head of USA Girl Scouts overseas, but she is undoubtedly answerable to the CEO of Girl Scouts, of USA Girl Scouts, or Girl Scouts USA. But, so the website, the general website works for us. There are materials on there. There's online shopping. You can order these things yourself. However, we do group orders. But there are other little things like you can get earrings, you can get bracelets, you can get T-shirts. If you want to do that, you can order from there. They've got some of the just kind of the general information about the organization, because that does not change. The promise and law are going to be the same. All of these programs are the same. They will talk about, and this is more geared towards the adults, they say there are 4 pillars that form the foundation of the Girl Scout leadership experience. And this is where the corporate thing comes in. I think they're trying to impress the adults and get funding, and because it is a nonprofit organization. They try to get corporate sponsors. I mean, Google has been involved. Various organizations do this. Their 4 pillars are STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, outdoors, life skills, and entrepreneurship. So they use those, but you'll hear that and you might read it and you might see it on the website. It's not something we talk to the girls about. It's just kind of a, those are kind of the goals, the strategic planning or whatever they're doing. And they have been pushing outdoors again. They went back to it. I mean, it used to be that Girl Scouting was the only place you could do stuff, girls could do stuff like camping and da-da-da-da-da. Then they started thinking, well, we ought to get involved in this other stuff. And now everybody screamed and we're back to making sure we do outdoor stuff. So it does change. When you register, however, there is a separate part of the site. So if you want to know about the stuff for Girl Scouts overseas, sometimes I think it depends on the page you're on. There will be a tab up at the top that says overseas, or you can do the search, and there's kind of a sub-website in there for Girl Scouts overseas. So they will have some materials and stuff like that. But you just kind of have to navigate around and look. But like the main, I can order the things that say Girl Scouts overseas. Those come from the main website for the store. So there is a subset there, but you won't notice it except if you try to register on the main site. They will not have the option for picking Rome. However, they will have an option if you hit join where it'll say overseas, so you have to do that. And I'm going to send out instructions on the registration and stuff, but just so you know. My goal this year is basically to try to sort of pass along everything I know about Girl Scouts, because unless people have been involved, and like Rachel was involved, but it was brownies, or
No,
how far did you get?
I went from first grade brownie, and I think my last kind of full active year was, it was my first cadet year, 7th grade. So,
Okay, so
first,
she did,
I did all of brownies,
So about,
juniors,
sounds like about
senior
5
cadet.
years, 6 years, yeah. Yeah.
Between, I might as well say when it was, because it was between, let me see, 1976, I think the last year I did it was 1983. So that's my time reference in there.
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
You were in first grade when I was graduating. Okay.
Because I was looking in those manuals, and they do have what these so-called historic pages. And there's like, oh, there's that patch I did in 1980. Yeah, seriously. Anyway.
But basically there's tradition with Girl Scouts, and I told you the levels that kind of added. So you'll find, or you'll hear, and you may have wondered, Lindsay, I don't know if you noticed it last year, but when we do a, what do we call it? An investiture and a rededication ceremony at the beginning. We did it with a candlelight ceremony last year. The candlelight ceremony is a Girl Scout tradition, okay? They do special things for brownies. And they do this thing where they spin around and they look in a mirror that's supposed to be a pond, and they're supposed to, you know, and they kind of have an origin story about the elves in the forest, and, you know. But that's because it started with brownies, and once upon a time. Those traditions have remained. When you transfer, and people used to think brownies were not part of Girl Scouts, but they were. But they would call the brownies brownies, and everybody else was a Girl Scout. Now they were a junior Girl Scout, a cadet Girl Scout, a senior Girl Scout. But everybody else were green, the brownies were brown. So there was this, you know, sort of, so there are traditions involved with brownies that you don't see with the others, like when you pass from a brownie to a junior, you get fly-up wings on your
No, we don't have those.
you don't have those?
No.
Okay, all right. You get fly-up wings. I don't know why, we should have given them to you.
No, I did. I just thought they were supposed to go on the junior.
That's true,
But-
and the fly-up wings are, that's true, they do go on the junior one. The fly-up wings are I think, one of a few things that they wear through all the levels. So you'll see 12th grade ambassador scouts will have the fly-up wings on their uniform. So it's like that keeps going. Brownies have a different membership pin, and daisies have a different membership pin. And then when they become a junior, they get the standard Girl Scout pin that is worn the rest of the time. So, but the traditions are kind of wild. I thought of one yesterday, and things pop into my head because they've been buried there for 40 years or whatever. But there's a little rhyme that they'll say to brownies as they're starting the meeting. Round and round and roundabout, take the hand of a brownie scout. When we're in the brownie ring, we can do most anything. And so the leader will take a brownie and they'll walk around and they'll grab the others and they'll form them into a circle. And that's the brownie ring. There are all sorts of little things, but I don't think I've done that little rhyme for, 40 years, and it pops into my head. So I'm going to try to sort of pass these things along. There are songs, Girl Scouts sing.
The nice thing about the songs, a lot of those, you jogged my memory at the camping trip, because I was, oh my God, I thought we sang that, and it just came out of my mind after 40 years, literally, after, 35 years. All of these are now online on YouTube with the girls doing them, and there's hand motions that go with them. So there's some that were in all corners of the United States that I never learned in Houston, Texas. So that's the nice thing about it. We didn't have that then. But
Some of them
we
were
have it
camp
now.
songs, and for years, the problem was Girl Scouts, they didn't have the rights to some of these songs. Some of them are folk songs, some of them are camp songs, but if they couldn't get the rights, they wouldn't publish them in a book. So it is nice that we now have YouTube, because apparently there's no problem if somebody wants to get up and sing whatever on YouTube.
Well,
So
and also
Girl
how it
Scouts-
goes that way, unless you could read music, then
Yeah,
when
so
you're really
it's,
good.
and that's the other thing. You didn't. So we are lucky that way, because when I was a Girl Scout, we all had little notebooks where we kept all the songs that we learned, and But Girl Scouts is a great program. That's why I'm still involved with it. My daughter is now 32, and I'm still doing this. So I think it's great for them. It's great if they go through all the levels as far as they can, because there's more and more responsibility. Some of these girls, and you will see this if you look on the website, they'll usually have something posted. They are so very impressive. These girls that are, now 17 or whatever, and they've gotten their gold awards, they've done some amazing things. And, they're like, maybe the average girl or young woman doesn't do things like that until she's in her mid-20s or 30s. But they're organizing projects, they're, doing all sorts of stuff. But it gives them a lot of tools that really help. I've got handouts. I'll give you the Girl Scouts. They've done research, X percentage of U.S. senators, women senators were Girl Scouts, CEOs.
I think
You
it's
know.
100% of U.S. senators.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
They
it
were
is.
all Girl Scouts. Now, to be fair, some of that's because they were, kids back in the 60s when I was, when everyone was Girl Scout. But the fact is, it is an impressive organization, and they'll say it's the largest organization for girls in the world. So, what we need this year is we need parents, because we either need, there are a couple of different things. I'm going to work with the cadets and the juniors somewhat. Rachel's going to work with the juniors mostly because her daughter's in juniors, and I'm going to help out. I'm going to try to plan the badges and help out, although it'll probably get kind of overwhelming after a while trying to do it for 4 groups. We need people to agree to take on the daisies and the brownies, and Rachel and I need help with the juniors and the cadets. Because if nothing else, it would give us a break if we could just show up one week and the other person's the one doing the talking. But I think, and a lot of people have come back and said they're fine with that, if it's at least the younger troops. Rachel and I may be more consistent with the older ones, I don't know. We gotta look at our schedule. But with the younger ones, what we're hoping is to get a number of moms that'll say, I'll do one meeting, and we'll put a couple of moms together and they can run this meeting. And that way, it's not a big burden on anyone. And everybody needs to travel and everything, and I'm doing some of it this year. So we need people to just kind of take part, and I'm hoping that by doing it and by, learning the stuff I know and the stuff that Rachel knows, and Sarah's even gotten into the act. She's making a little video on how to do a brownie badge that she's going to send us. She was working on it today from Germany.
Well, I did one too last year. I can show at some point, unless you want to just save that till the end, just kind of walk through that step.
Yeah.
Would you like me to do that now? Okay,
we'll
go ahead.
But in any case, that's kind of what we're looking for. I have had people come back, and I haven't answered everybody, but people have come back. I've got a couple of people that are going to handle orders, and a couple of people that said they can handle taking the money for the registration for the group. And I don't know if all of you have all of that information because I haven't sent out the general thing. But basically, you go online and you pay $45 US by credit card to the national organization. They require that of everybody. That gets you insurance for Girl Scout activities if your child is hurt, and I don't know if this really applies in Italy. In the US, you end up paying a percentage whenever your kid goes to the hospital. The insurance pays part of it, you get to pay the other part. Well, what happens is Girl Scout insurance will pick that up if they're injured on a Girl Scout activity or at a meeting. So that's why they do that. It's, it costs a couple of dollars a child, but they have a big group policy. So they do that. They support the leaders and everything as far as providing us with information and all of that sort of thing. That's $25 a year for anybody who's a member of Girl Scouts, including adults, unless you want to put out I think it's now $400, and you can get a life membership. I did that a number of years ago when it was $150, and boy did I get a deal, because I haven't paid now for about 30 years. So, but in any case, I mean, you can do this, but then they add $20 per girl for the overseas support. Because in the US, they've got councils doing that, and the councils are funded by the cookie sales. So that's why the money. We collected, and I think it's probably a decent amount. Last year we collected 75 euros per girl for the year, which paid for supplies we used at the meetings. We paid for the badges that we ordered, because the badges it's like $3 for a brownie badge and a junior badge. We paid for the pins, the membership pins. Now the uniforms are kind of optional, so we have the parents decide what they want to do, because there are choices involved. You can get a vest or a sash, or you can, you know, you can buy a scarf. Some people bought scarves because the girls like the scarves. There are all sorts of things you can do. The official uniform for at least the older girls, it must be for the brownies too, is they say a white shirt, khaki pants or skirt, and then you wear the vest or whatever with it. So you can do that. We don't, usually they just all like to wear their vests or their sashes because they've got their badges on them, you know. But we don't require really anything. But we will give them a membership pin. Try to figure out what else I haven't said. Oh, yes. And the money we have left at the end goes towards the camping trip, or we may use it to pay a fee if we go do something and, you know, we go ice skating or whatever we decide to do. Or we may pay part of it and have the parents pay the other part. There's all sorts of ideas on why you should or shouldn't do that. So, it's, you know. Anybody else have a question?
Do you, go ahead. I was just wondering, do you have an idea, an estimate, how many people, girls are gonna participate this year? Or it's impossible to know?
I've gotten a lot of inquiries. It's always kind of wait and see who shows up. Last year we had about a dozen at each level, but we didn't have any cadets. We had some of the juniors have moved up to cadets now. I think I had 4 that supposedly bridged. I've heard there were a couple out there. I haven't heard from them yet. We have an 18-year, the reason I've heard of them is they're the sisters of an 18-year-old who stepped up, and she's doing a gap year. And so she's here since her parents have come here to be stationed, and then next year she's going back and she's going to go to the University of Virginia. She's been accepted, but she wants to volunteer. So she is actually going to serve as the co-leader of probably the Brownie troop. So she won't say she'll be the leader, but but she has sisters that are supposed to be cadet age, and she asked not to work with the cadets because she's got sisters. So, so I don't know. So I'm guessing I may have half a dozen at cadet level. I'm betting from the ones that moved up and the ones that we retained from last year, we'll have at least a dozen juniors. And as I said, I've gotten, including some of your daughters, I've heard this, so, you know, I think it'll be around that. Now, the number that show up at any particular meeting is always a fun thing to do, you know. Some weeks I had 11, some weeks I had 5 last year. And it's all over the place, so, you know, yeah.
Speaking to that and knowing and planning, is there a year calendar in place so that we can plan accordingly, or?
Well, that's what I have been looking at the dates. Since we're using my house as a base, you know, when we need my house, obviously I kind of have to be here. I've also looked at school schedules, and I did go through the calendar and figure this out, and it looks, we try to do 2 meetings a month. We have a problem with October because they do a fall break there at the end, and then you get, you know, Thanksgiving comes in November, and then you've got Christmas. So I'm guessing what we will do is have a meeting this week, and then I think I figured out we can do the first week in October and the 3rd week. Okay, that's